Welcome to another episode of Storytime. This one is a special one because today with me I have Mihai Fanache, who is the CEO of Newsroom AI, a web story editor. Mihai, thank you so much for being here. Can you introduce yourself and also tell us a little bit more about what Newsroom AI is?
Hey Paul, thanks for having me. Yeah, so we started as a content recommendations company, and we came to realize that out of all the content that we are recommending, the most engaging stories tend to be the ones that have visual elements, either photos or videos embedded in them. This is how we came to, we decided to build our own tappable story format, which eventually crossed paths with the web stories format, and this is how we got here.
Awesome. And I know you just did this amazing overhaul of the editor. Can you talk a little bit more about what's new?
Yeah, so I think a lot of our core features are now easier to figure out. They were sort of buried into drop downs and widgets and whatnot before. So I think they're a lot kind of more obvious to figure out right now. And then we built an entirely new publishing workflow where we kind of guide people through what it takes to have the stories discovered. And then there's a new My Stories page where you just kind of are able to find your stuff, tag your stuff, make sure that stories are properly tagged, figure out what works, what doesn't. Yeah, so quite a few new improvements are coming live now.
Who do you think now are the creators that Newsroom AI is for?
Yeah, so we work with a very wide range of creators, from the very large publishers to small independent publishers to individual creators, small businesses, museums, the London Zoo. So really anyone is welcome to give us a try.
A lot of the people that watch these episodes are really new to the stories ecosystem. And to be honest, it's a very young ecosystem anyway. So I'm curious for new story creators, do you have any particular advice what to avoid, what to focus on first?
Yeah, I guess it's worth keeping in mind that these are real stories. They need to be proper narratives. They need to have the narrative structure, the narrative arc. That makes them what they are. Humans are naturally and hopelessly drawn by stories, so it's something that's definitely kind of worth keeping in mind.
Mihai, one of the things we've been trying to teach people on this series, but also on other educational resources that we're publishing, is that stories aren't really social, right? You just don't publish them into one silo and that's it. So I'm curious, have you experienced stories embedded in various places? How do your creators and users use stories on their own websites and so on?
Yeah, so there are many practical ways of making use of the format. So first of all, kind of making sure that your stories are properly published so that they're discovered in the Google product. And then there are so many ways of adding those stories into site widgets, embedding them into existing articles, where doing what we call the 360 approach, where you basically build a property that's entirely made up of stories. And then obviously sharing the stories on social media makes a lot of sense.
What issues do you see for the web stories format and the ecosystem going forward? Which are the things that we still need to iron out, maybe some that still produce friction?
Yeah, I think we all just kind of need to eventually become better storytellers, ourselves included. So we can obsess about so many kind of technical aspects about kind of interactive elements, responsiveness, streaming and whatnot, but I think what's really key is for all of us to really be able to tell better stories.
All right, and we're almost at the end. I'm just curious to have yourself imagine the future. Where do you see the web stories ecosystem in 5 years, and where do you see a Newsroom AI in 5 years?
Yeah, I think stories are going to be everywhere. I think you're going to walk into a store, scan a product, and get a web story to figure out what's in the box, and then there's so much you can probably do in the entertainment space. I'm not saying that stories are going to replace Netflix, but there's so much that you can do to build those branching narratives, sort of like building a story within a story kind of thing. And yeah, I think that's really, really exciting.
Thank you so much for all of those amazing insights, Mihai. That was a really interesting interview. I'm really curious to track the progress of Newsroom AI myself. And for everyone who's watching this, please try out Newsroom AI to see if it matches what you're trying to look for in an editor. They have come a long way. There's a visual update right now out of the door. So give it a try. Thanks again, Mihai. Onwards.